The show is about to start. Thank you for your cooperation. Enjoy the show, and please come back and visit us again.
All right, everybody, and welcome to episode 124 of the 9 Years podcast with Nick Draper, joined, as always, by Stuart Deakins, or by Stuart Deakins, or with Stuart Deakins. Doesn't matter. Thank you very much for listening to us this week on iTunes, YouTube, 9wirespodcast.org. However, it might be a somewhat truncated show this week. We have no game to talk about. And as you know, Stuart and I can waffle on for hours, normally, but this week it's going to be a bit of a struggle, because the visit of Charlton last Saturday, called off because of a frozen pitch, and we obviously weren't present at Kingsmeadow on Saturday. We were not, or even on Friday, because it was called off on Friday, of course. So we don't know. We don't know what the state of the pitch was. We assumed it was just a frozen pitch. Did seem to get called off very early, though, Stu. I think Friday noon, actually, wasn't it, when we got the word the pitch was judged to have been frozen. Yeah, I have no worries about it. I didn't want to go to football anyway on Saturday. I think we all needed this little break from watching Wimbledon for a bit, because it's been hard work this season. But we were so keen to get the Blackburn game on when perhaps that was in a more perilous state, shall we say, especially come the end of the game. We seem to be in a hurry to call this one off.
Yeah, it looks like we desperately tried to keep the Blackburn game on, didn't we? It seemed like we had the covers on. Do you know what? It was blimmin' cold. There was no doubt about that. I wasn't overly disappointed that the game was called off on Friday. I think there was a few people rejoicing that the game was called off. Yeah, I think the temperatures obviously were really quite bad from Tuesday. I don't think we're that disappointed to have the gap in terms of 10 days. Chance to recuperate from the Blackburn game, refresh, get some training in, get some tactical training and stuff like that, and hopefully we come out on Saturday and refreshed and full of good ideas. You think we were back in training instead of having the match, we were called into the training ground, were we, on Saturday? I've not heard anything. I've not asked a question, to be honest with you, either. But you'd hope. My gut feeling is they may well give them the weekend off to recover. I know that doesn't go down well too well with some people. I'm in the camp, actually. I don't mind them having a break. I really don't like to refresh. It's this part of the season that I don't think sometimes it's worth flogging them to death. I know some people say, well, if they're not winning, then you chuck them in, get them to train more. Do we really want to pick up injuries or potential injuries? Do we really want them to be looking lethargic? I would rather stick to how we've done it before. Neil Hardy's always got the team performing towards the end of the season, is how he maps it, and I'm not one that wants them to be training all the time, but also get effective training in when they do.
Brings me nicely on to my next point, because as much as I am not a fan, as people know, of the current Manchester City side, great point put to me on the weekend about Manchester City's training, which is said to be very intense, high-intensity training. Lots and lots of basically just putting the yards in, basically. They don't spend, from what I understand, they're not spending hours and hours like a Roy Hodgson-type manager or a Sam Allardyce working on defensive shape or anything like that. They are just playing football or different exercises which get them all moving at 100 miles an hour, basically. And the point was put forward that if you're training at that high an intensity all week, there's no chance in hell that come Saturday, come match day, that you're going to not play with the same intensity. And is it fair to say that perhaps our training is reflected in the way we've gone about games this season? Very low tempo, not very standoffish, basically low intensity training leads to low intensity performances.
Well, there's no doubt the way we started games has not been good enough. I think the only game that I can, off the top of my head, think we've started really high tempo. I remember Gillingham at home, we did start really high. To be fair, the Peterborough game the other week, we started really, really well. I don't know whether that's us starting well or Peterborough just feeling very lethargic. But yeah, we don't come out. Hey, look, Neil Hardy's got his way of training. They all have, haven't they? I have seen bits of the Guardiola where he does he does like a headers and volleys session against the wall where they literally have to do one touch, and it's very high impact. But the way Guardiola plays is obviously he wants them to win the ball back. Barcelona was very much win the ball back within 3 or 4 seconds, and they all swarm if they lost possession. But yeah, you know what? I don't want them to be flogged. I'm not. That to me is no point in doing that. I'd rather stick to how we are, and be refreshed for Oxford. But we have to look like we want it. We have to come out fighting and on a very much higher tempo.
In our absence last week, results. Well, Milton Keynes lost again. They're down. They've gone, and yeah, well, they've got. Their manager, are we sure he wasn't in the in-betweeners? Are we certain he wasn't? Whatever he was, or whoever he is, he doesn't strike you, does he, as a guy that is going to lead a team out of the trouble they're in, does he? With all due respect.
No.
Or not, actually. It's the Milton Keynes manager. No respect.
Yeah, and do you know what? I heard from a few people that I know who said that he was always... Because, they sold him, didn't they, as being involved in the England World Cup youth team. Obviously they won the World Cups, didn't they? Was it at 16s, 18s levels or 18, 20 levels? And he was involved in that. But from what bits and pieces I've heard off the grapevine is that he's actually better at a technical role, and he actually isn't a very good manager, which is showing, isn't it? So it looks like to me they've gone for the cheap option. Great, I love that. And it's great to see and to hear that the locals in Buckinghamshire are now questioning whether they have the right chairman in place, and maybe they should get somebody else. Wow. Makes you chuckle. Yeah,
my irony meter just exploded. And the attendance is, much as we can't say anything because there was never 4,400 inside Kings Meadow for the visit of Blackburn the other week, but 8,000 people in Stadium MK.
Is that what they classed it as?
Bristol Rovers, that's what they said.
No
We've seen the pictures. There wasn't half that.
We've seen the pictures.
We have, yes.
No way. How do they... You're right, though. Just be hypocritical. There's no fault. Like you said, there was no way there was 4,500 or so for the Blackburn game. But, yeah, do you know what? I don't want to talk about them too much, but yeah, the quicker they're down, the better. Let's just make sure we don't join them.
Well, that's the other problem, because results... Apart from them losing, there were 3 other games in League One over the course of the weekend and midweek, and they weren't really great, were they, for us? Oldham won away at Scunthorpe. Warsaw, well, they had 2 games, didn't they? They had a great win away at Southend, 3-0, and then they came crashing back down to earth with a 3-0 home defeat in the week. However, that was to Rochdale. Now, saying that, Rochdale is still surely too far adrift to be worrying us.
Well, if they win they got 5 games in hand on us. I think they can...
I think it might be 4 now.
Yeah, 4 now. I actually haven't got a league table to hand, but realistically, no. But they can put enough pressure on people. There's no doubt in that. They can put enough pressure on the people to people start nervously looking over their shoulders. But the good thing with Rochdale is that people go, well, they're going to play Monday, they're going to play Tuesday, Saturday. But actually, do you know what? It just means they won't train. And if you ask a lot of footballers, they don't really want to train. They'd rather play games and train. So Rochdale model will be very much they will go Tuesday, Saturday. They will do very light training or play matches. When you start winning a 3-0, Walsall went to Southend and won 3-0, and they got turned over in their own backyard 3-0 by Rochdale, who weren't scoring loads of goals, and all of a sudden Henderson and players like that now are starting to score. They've obviously relayed their pitch at home. Does that become a player in a situation? We go there on the 17th of March. They've still got to play teams around them. I've gone from a little bit now of thinking they were well out of any chance to actually now thinking they have a slight chance. It's still only slight. They've got anyone would say you'd rather have the points on the board than games in hand, but all the time they keep winning, then they have to be considered a threat to us.
Yeah, they've got 4 games in hand on us then. So, I mean, if they win 2 of those 4 games, they come to within 3 points of us. So I guess you are starting to put the pressure on, aren't you? Like you say.
Yeah, I'm just looking through now actually to see what fixtures they've got. It's not going to tell me, is it? But I
can tell you that this Saturday they're away at Rotherham, so we can probably discount them getting much there.
Well, yes, their games that were in hand were they've still got to play Southend, Fleetwood, Oldham, Plymouth. They're the postponed games that they have postponed. So still got to play.
Are you sure that they were the postponed games that were postponed?
Yeah.
Are we sure?
Postponed games. They were postponed.
Right, right.
But, do you know what? Watch to have a good manager. They have a realistic aim, and they're buoyed from the fact they went to Wembley, they didn't get disgraced, they've got some money out of it, they've got a new pitch. People are fighting for their lives, aren't they? And when people are fighting for their lives, then you can be surprised what happened. It's obviously, I've said to you off when we're recording, I worry that we don't seem to think we're in a relegation battle, where Rochdale definitely know they're in a relegation, Oldham know they're in a relegation battle, and so on. Yeah,
the constant theme running through our season, like we said, is the fact that the message coming from the club has been, yes, we are underperforming in the league table and we want to get it right and put that right for the fans. That's pretty much been the message all season. When you get to the last 11 games and you're still in that situation, surely the time is now to kind of say, look, all our aim is to make sure that we're not in that bottom four when the season ends in May. So it doesn't help, though, like you say, when teams that have been in a relegation have been in that mindset all season, like your Oldhams, like your Northamptons, they can still pick up results. And Oldham are going to be helped out massively, like you pointed out to me, by the return of their top scorer.
Yeah, Mr. Doyle, because I can never pronounce his first name, no matter how many times you tell me.
It's a tricky Irish name, isn't it?
Yeah.
Owen.
But why did I start to pronounce it O-W-E-N and not E-I-O-N?
Because I think it's Gaelic. So,
Mr. Doyle.
Yeah, Celtic or something, one of those.
Yeah.
Celtic.
Mr. Doyle has returned. Too good for his level. He will score the goals. He will score the goals that get him out of trouble. Oldham always get out of trouble, and I don't see anything different this year. I think for us now, it's more a case of we need as many teams as possible to bring to the party, i.e. bring to the relegation party, as I would call it. So we need to make sure we bring the teams like Doncaster, Fleetwood, Oxford, as we're going to chat a bit later. You know, can we bring them into the relegation zones and make it a bit, because we don't really want to be. You want as many teams as possible, because there are hopefully some worse teams out than us.
You mentioned Oldham there, having been there, done it, and stayed up in previous seasons. John Sheridan, often the man that's got them out of trouble. Think he's going to have an impact at Fleetwood? They are a team that have sunk, dropped like a stone into this relegation battle. They've got a big turnaround on his hands. But because they've fallen, they're actually in amongst it, as opposed to someone like Bury, who you think will cut adrift.
Yeah, they're a weird one, aren't they? Because we've done quite a lot of chatting about relegation zones off recording and so forth, and I found Sheridan a weird one. You obviously sensed that it was because he's been there and done it with Oldham, and you can't argue that. But Fleetwood are not short of a few, Bobby. I thought they may go from maybe a recognised name, maybe, or something like that. You know, they had Uwe Rosler in before, didn't they? So he wouldn't have come cheap. But they've gone down the Sheridan route that may prove successful and very wise. They've got to swing around their form massively, because their form since probably Christmas has been relegation form, which is why they're now. I'm just looking at the tables actually, and their home record is the worst in the league. Yeah, only 4 wins at home, one of them against us, of course. But they've still come to Kings Meadow, haven't they? And I think that's where we are at the moment. I think, I said to you, with the Charlton game being rearranged for the 10th of April, it now means that we have our last 6 games, 4 of them are at home. So, but also against teams that are around the relegation zone. So it's in our hands, and it's going to be fun, isn't it? Last year the year before that, we've had the promotion parties and that, and this year we've just got a bit more of a squeaky bum time.
I have said previously that come the final day of the season, if we are still in danger of being relegated when Bury visit for that last game of the season, if we need to get a point or a win to stay up on that last day, I just think whatever happens come the end of that Bury game, if we go down, I think people will obviously rightly be angry and there'll be a bit of upset, but as much as an AFC Wimbledon crowd can get ugly, which isn't much, to be honest with you, I don't think, should we stay up like we did against Fleetwood all those years ago, it's not going to be the same scene. I can't imagine people flooding onto the pitch like they did before. I think people would just sort of shrug their shoulders, go and forget that season ever happened, to be honest with you. It's
a difficult one, isn't it? Because you've seen it. You see it all around the country. we've always said before, you always want something to play for, don't you? Don't get me wrong. This year, I'd rather literally our last 10 games be dead rubbers and nothing involved in them. But it's nothing you see up and down the country on the last game of the season. Teams that survive relegation on the final day celebrate as if they got promoted. I don't think we'd be any different. Football's a really weird. You're celebrating staying up, but your season has been rubbish. But you stayed up possibly on the last day, and that could be possibly because you've done the great escape, where you've won the last 10 games or something else stupid, or you've just managed to get more points than the teams around you, so you're very much a better team out of four poor teams. But I still think I still sense now that we're going to have sellouts around Kings Meadow purely because Wimbledon fans will, when the team is needed, when it's needed, they will come and support the team. I don't think we haven't had full hours this year. There's no getting away from that. And I think that's down to the entertainment factor. It's pretty boring watching Wimbledon this year. But I think they will come out in their numbers for the relegation to try and get us behind the boys and get us out of this little trouble we are in.
Little trouble that we're in. I wonder, Fleetwood and Milton Keynes' home records this season are abysmal. You referenced Fleetwood's home record earlier. I do wonder, because of the stadiums they play in front of the crowds they play in front of, if that is a demotivating factor for certain players. It must be very, very difficult. I don't care, but for Milton Keynes players to find any enthusiasm at all to go out and play football in those conditions. And I reckon that's certainly counting against them this season. Which is another team that I think, it's not the same, but Oxford, who play in a 3-sided stadium, I always find that's got to be somewhat not the fact it's only got 3 sides, but the fact one is completely open. It's all very strange. But they are a team you've mentioned who could be dragged into this scrap for survival if they're not already amongst it. Just because no one's talking about them, they're only 5 points outside the relegation zone. They're only 5 points better off than Fleetwood. So before we get into their squad and what have you, they're still managerless. However, some of the names in the frame for the job have interested you.
Definitely. And just quickly, just before I forget, when you said about playing in grounds and playing in soulless stadiums in Buckinghamshire, of course, which you meant. One thing I would say, the bottom 4, Fleetwood, Rochdale, Dem, Bradford City.
Bradford City?
Bradford City have only won 6 home games.
I thought you were listed, do you know what, for a moment there, I thought you were listing the bottom 4 in the table and going on about their stadiums.
Yeah,
so
that's the worst 4 records in home games. Bradford City are the 4th worst. Ooh. So what it also says, and I said to you before when we won at Bradford, is when you're playing in front of Bradford do very well in terms of how they price their tickets, and they get 18. They must be getting between 15 and 20,000. But that also shows the flip side to it. Actually, is that your home fan can turn against you, and Bradford fans did that by all accounts when we beat them in the season. But yeah, so just before they're a weird one that when you look at their home form, that's where they've struggled, and obviously why it cost Stuart McCall his job. But yeah, Oldham, if we go back to managers, yeah, so they've obviously had a takeover. They've had some foreign, I'm not going to try and pronounce his name, we call him Mr. T for the purpose of this segment, but they've obviously had some foreign investment.
Mr. T, of course, who appeared at the first couple of WrestleManias. Getting the weekly wrestling reference in there.
Actually, just say that. I was just reading the story here. He's a Thai businessman, but they're known as Tiger. So Mr. Tiger, we're going to call him. So he took over. He's interviewed apparently quite a few people in the running for the job are Patrick Kluivert, who apparently his favourite, alongside Steve McLaren and Brian McDermott. There's some decent names there. Patrick Kluivert, obviously, of course, well before your time, Nick. I remember seeing him play for Holland, and he also was assistant manager with Louis van Gaal with the Netherlands. So that's an interesting name. I don't know about you, but if he got confirmed before Saturday, I think I'd be quite interested to see Patrick Kluivert, one of my favourite players, definitely for Barcelona and stuff like that.
I would be giving him tons of grief because when I signed him on Football Manager, Championship Manager back in the day, he was rubbish. It was the biggest waste of money I've ever spent on that game.
But it just shows you, though. Hey, look, if we're honest, we've had manager. We've had people moaning about our manager all season, and people going, "Oh, well, who would you?" It's all right you saying get rid of the manager, but who would you bring in? Well, let's be honest with you, there's names around there, and yes, okay, these names may be interested because there's money involved there, but Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank has gone into Northampton. Uwe Rosler's a big football name. Craig Bellamy was interested in the Oxford job before he dropped out. So there are big names that wanted to get around in League One, but yeah, Steve McLaren.
Be very careful. Be very careful when you say those words.
Be careful what you wish for, of course. Steve Cotteridge lost his job at Birmingham and stuff like that. And I'm not for 1 minute. I'm very much in the RDN camp, and it wasn't, a link onto basically just get rid of our manager. But for the people that say, well, who would you? It's all right, you say get rid of him. Who'd you bring in? Well, there's a lot of people looking for jobs, sniffing around jobs, and that shows with the Oxford vacancy at the moment.
Now, Oxford's last visit to Kings Meadow was the only time they have lost on a visit to Kings Meadow. 2-1, goals from Dean Parrott and Sean Kelly. Now, I reference this because Dean Parrott scored the equaliser with a shot from outside the box. Not sure how he survived being thrown in Ardley jail for that one. And then Sean Kelly scored with a header from a Dean Parrott corner. So it can happen, but with Dean Parrott seemingly not in the first team plans at the moment, probably not going to happen.
No, and it's really funny, isn't it, how we had that terrible, terrible record against Oxford, and we all sort of said, didn't we, Joe, when it goes, it would go in style. It did. We've done a double over in the season, so especially with our with the goal that never gets boring to watch, the Darius Charles assault on somebody and then top corner. Never gets boring, that goal. But yeah, Joe, I was at Oxford this year in one of my few away games this year, and they battered us. I thought they were excellent that day, and I think if I listen back to the podcast when we reviewed that game, I actually think they'd done the best number on us. I thought they were excellent against us, so I don't get where their form's gone. But yeah, from our point of view, Dean Parrott, would he play? I don't know, he sat on the bench quite a bit. If he's got a bit of training in, I don't think there's been, from memory, any under-23 games, but it doesn't mean we haven't played any games, maybe some training games to get him some time. But if we're going to win these games, we do need to really have our match winners, and Dean Parrott is one of them. Yeah,
I've had this conversation many times. I've even had this conversation with Neil Ardley himself, and I understand I understand why Neil Ardley is not so much a fan of Dean Parrott, but I also, as you say there, is a match winner. You can't argue with the statistics from last season in terms of his goals and assists. So sometimes I think we do tend to overcomplicate matters with our selections. But aside from that, Oxford, still managed us at the time of recording. Perfect home game for us, I think, to pick up 3 points. It's exactly the type of opponent you want. Question is, will we get it?
Well, they've not won in 4. They've not won in 4 games, so they're not in that winning habit. Joe, we've got to go for the game. We can't be doing what we did against Blackburn. I know Blackburn at home and Oxford at home are totally different propositions, aren't they? But we have to go in attacking formation. When I look at their team, I thought their best player against us was Wes Thomas up front. I thought he gave, if I remember properly, Darius and Deji a torrid time, and one of the goals he scored was just... Actually, no, it wasn't Deji, was it? I think it was Will Nightingale was there. Might be doing Darius some service there, actually. But
they do look like Will and Deji.
But he was on the bench against Northampton last time out, and they have had a 2-week break, so they didn't have a midweek game. Their last game was against Northampton. They drew 0-0 at Sixfield. But Wes Thomas was on the bench. They played a Beaker up front on that occasion. But I look through
the Muppets.
I look at their team. I love Messino, who's their captain, centre half. I think he's an excellent player. But they just, of course, they bought their foreign manager in, didn't they? And forgive me, was he
Clotet, yeah,
Spanish or Portuguese?
He was Portuguese, I believe. Wasn't he assistant manager? He's been assistant manager at many clubs prior to that. Sheffield United comes to mind. I might have that wrong.
So he brought in very much his players that he wanted to bring in, and very much that sort of European sort of player and stuff like that. So they're definitely in transition. I think it's a good time to play them as long as they don't get a manager in. The rumours are that their Mr. Tiger at Oxford wants to see them face to face again this week. So you may well find that they may have their temporary caretaker manager in before the manager comes in. But I think it's a great time to play them. We've got to be brave. We've 11 games to go. they're going to gradually go very, very quickly, and we've got to start attacking teams in our home games. We can't be playing defensive because we would just end up not getting the goals we need.
So your score prediction is?
I fancy I'm going to be brave, a 3-0 win.
Yeah, I think my silence says it all there. You've taken the words, taken the breath out of me. Yes, I'm going to say 1-1.
Yeah, don't get me wrong, I know where you go for that, but I think I said 0-0, didn't I, against Blackburn or something like that. But no, I think a 3-0 win. Joe, I think it's a good time to play them, break, refreshed, all that sort of stuff, and we'll come out and hit the ground running. Please let that be the case.
All right. Abdu, are you very quickly?
Yes, go for it.
And all right, let's see how we get on with it this week. Right, first of all, first clue, sort of cryptic, ex-Wimbledon player who is now an estate agent.
Well, if he's an estate agent, that suggests to me that he didn't have a great career. I mean that respectfully. So
it's still the cryptic clue, though.
Oh, is it really? I'm not good at cryptic clues, so let me ignore that. Houses, built like houses. I don't know. Shane Smallking.
Okay. Second one.
Yeah.
Was a key figure in Wimbledon's promotion to the Football League.
A key figure. So, okay. So at least I now know what a team it is. Well, sorry, I knew Wimbledon was a team, of course. I know what. Yes, let me sharp street. Key figure. It's got to be something cryptic around that as well. No. A key figure. So I would obviously say the key figure for me was it would be. You'll go for Kedwell, so I'm going to go for Seb Brown.
Okay. Well, this is panning out exactly as I thought it might. I'm so happy. Right. This former Walton and Hersham striker scored 57 times for us in 147 games.
Walton and Hersham striker?
Walton and Hersham striker.
Oh, no, I can't believe you... 1 second, Kedwell did not play for them. Oh, but he was here on trial. 57 in 147. Kes didn't get that many, did he?
Don't know.
John Mayne.
John Mayne?
Yeah. No, he wasn't a key figure, though. He wasn't a celebrations bowl accounts.
I really want to give you another clue. Because you're going to get this so wrong. You're going to get this wrong whoever you pick.
It's not John Mayne, but I can still with John Mayne.
I'm going to give you one more clue to help you out with this one. Okay. Was a key figure in Wimbledon's promotion to the Football League. Right?
Yes.
How many times have we been promoted to the Football League?
You've done me, haven't you? You've gone back to the old days.
There we go.
Oh dear, who was in that team? That's before my time.
No, it's not. No, it's not. That was 1977, wasn't it? So you would have been about 12.
I can now sense people like Tommy and that going, "Come on, Stu, you should know," and I'm thinking, I don't remember who was in it. Dave Bassett would have been in that team in the Football League that got up.
Is that your final answer?
Yeah, I think so. I'm not feeling good on this at all.
I didn't think you would do. It's the wrong answer. And I'll give you the anagram if you help.
You can do, but I don't know if I'm going to get it, yeah.
Well, let's go for Corn Gel Loner.
Oh, this is really Cornell, isn't it? Yes, Roger Cornell.
Roger Connell.
Same thing. Cornell, isn't it?
It's Roger Connell, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. But yes, well, you got it from the anagram. You've got a lot better at these anagrams, I've got to say.
I have, but, oh, dear, you deliberately sold me down a river, and I foolishly went down it.
I do enjoy doing that. It's a bit harsh. Maybe we should, in future, we should be looking at you setting the quiz and me being on the other end of it.
I'm stupid, though, and don't answer that, but I'm stupid because we all know that the reason we all know the Walton and Hersham link because, of course, a lot of players went from there to Wimbledon, didn't they, in that non-league? So as soon as you said Walton and Hersham, I should have twigged, but of course I didn't. Damn you. Anyway, what's next?
The estate agent, by the way, of course, because Connell's estate agents is a thing. What's next? Well, that might be the last time we ever play that game. And why? I don't know. Who wants the honours of this one? Who wants the honours of explaining what's happening from here on to the end of the season?
I'll let you do it.
So kind. So kind. Okay. So basically, yes, changes are afoot at the 9 Years podcast. So from this Sunday evening, what date will that be? It's the 11th of March.
Yes. Which
is not only Mother's Day, it's my dad's birthday. He's going to be 94, so he's done very, very well. He had me. He was 70 when he had me, so that was,
I was going to say, yeah,
some sort of medical miracle. Yes, from Sunday, 11th of March, we are going to be live on broadcast radio. So we are going to be part of a new startup radio station, Love Sport it is called. You can check them out now, lovesportradio.com, based up in London, and basically they're available on DAB digital radio and AM radio, which is still a thing apparently, but as I'm sure most people will probably do, you can listen live online through their website. So every evening, I think, there is different shows, fan shows for all the London clubs, and we have been asked to present the Wimbledon one, which is going to be on Sundays from 8 p.m.
8 till 9, following the Watford team. So, Watford fans, that's going to be interesting.
Watford fans, see how long they last. They'll be sacked after a couple of weeks, as is the Watford way. But yeah, so we're going to be on Love Sport Radio, as we said. What this means to the podcast is, because we can't really give up much more of our time, to be honest with you. So what we're going to do instead from now on is the live show we shall have recorded. So the station, I was looking for the word there, the station will be recording that for us, which means we can release it as a podcast on Monday. And we hope to have that up on Monday evening. Now, this is the first week it's going to be happening, so bear with us. We will announce it on all our social media, of course, when it is available. So if it doesn't quite happen for Monday evening, hopefully, fingers crossed, touch wood, Tuesday evening at the latest. And you'll still be able to listen to us every week as a podcast, as the 9 Years podcast, but a lot of the content you'll download on the podcast will be from our live show on Sunday at 8 p.m. And if you can join us and listen on Sunday evening, we'd love you to. We'd love you to phone in as well and get involved. And we'll be able to talk live with you, along with, we do have an anchor. We have a huge anchor to help us out along the way, aren't we? Because we've never done live radio before.
No.
So we have got Aaron Paul is the name. Big football fan. He'll be joining us as well, okay? But we're going to try and cram in all the usual features. So don't worry, it's going to be exactly the same as this is. The same usual nonsense, same games, maybe a new game. Perhaps we'll get a new game in, who knows? And obviously we'll be promoting the fact that London football fans need to make sure that the bag goes in first. If I achieve nothing else with this, Stu, with this radio show, is to make sure we get that in the national, not the national psyche, but the London football supporting psyche.
It should be exciting, shouldn't it? Because we've had listened to a few. So we've got we had Spurs. So we went up there on Tuesday evening, and we had the Spurs fans were on there. The Fighting Cock, they're called, isn't it? Is that right?
Bit rude.
Yeah. They weren't great, if I'm being honest with you. And if they're listening, I'm sure they get better, just like their team does. But yeah, we're obviously a bit of a different format. Aaron Paul, very good actually. I believe he's got contact. I believe he's part of BBC London and stuff like that, so knows his football. But yeah, really, it was quite exciting, wasn't it? We went up there and saw the studio.
I had to be held back because we went around the studio just as Luther Blissett was broadcasting.
Yeah, but they had Brian Moore, the old England captain, rugby captain, Luther Blissett. They've got some good names, Martin Allen, Adam Kirbishley. They're very much
Rosie Wright.
Yes, you liked quite a lot, didn't you? But yeah, they're basically
very talented.
You may not be here. You may not be the first time you've heard about Love Sport Radio, but they are officially launching on the 19th of March. So very much they only just built a studio, hadn't they? Over the weekend before we got there, but a lot of they're looking to compete with TalkSport. We would love you all to social media. We can now do live phone-ins, which we've always wanted to do. So please call in. Don't ask anything about Neil Ardley on the first one, please. Let's settle in first. Let's hope we win on Saturday, because if we lose on Saturday, then that's all we're going to get. But yeah, I'm quite excited. And I have to say, I don't know about you, Nick, I was a little bit intimidated when I saw the studio. You can't swing a cat in there, can you?
No, to put it bluntly.
It's a very small studio, and I was like, oh, okay. And one thing I would say is that we have been obviously warned of what we can say on live radio. So I still say I'll still be as stupid as I normally am, but I can't do anything that may be liable.
You're not going to be saying anything about the Blackpool owners on that show. Certainly not.
I'll have a list of things I can't say, which will be extensive, I think.
I think they will be, but yes. So that is this Sunday, the 11th of March, from 8 p.m. And you can not only will we get it sorted as a podcast, you can download it from all the usual places, 9wirespodcast.org, iTunes, YouTube, all that business, but also it will be available to listen again on their website, lovesportradio.com, at Lovesport Radio. So yeah, please check them out and join us on Sunday. And I think that's it, unless we want to talk, because I've been saying about this, about my Fulham story, Stu.
Yes, we have to hear this, won't we?
It's not that exciting anymore, actually.
Okay.
Now, the more I think about it, the more I think you had to be there. But I went to watch Fulham play Wolves. Got my dad tickets through Christmas, as I do every year. We tend to go to Fulham once a year. Sometimes more, but at least once a year. Got tickets in the neutral end of Craven Cottage.
As you do.
Which supporting Fulham, of course. And the neutral end was less neutral, more completely 100% Wolves on this particular occasion. So it was a bit random, cheering and celebrating for Fulham, whilst everybody around you is sitting there looking depressed and probably thinking, why aren't you in the home end? Which is what I'd be thinking if the shoe was on the other foot, to be fair. But, so that was fun. That was a fun experience. Of course, I wasn't allowed in to begin with because my ticket scanned, and the turnstile, they have the ticket scanners like they do at Wembley and stuff. Put it under, green light comes on, push the turnstile to go in, doesn't move, doesn't budge. I turned to the turnstile operator. Best job in the world, that. Just had to sit there and watch people walk in and get paid for it. It's great. And she looks at me and goes, how old are you?
And you said?
I said nothing because I was stunned. I was literally like, what? I was like, just let me in. I've got a ticket. It's gone green. I can go through. It's buzzed me through. And she's just staring at me going, how old are you? And I literally did not say a word to this woman. I think I just stared at her for about 5 minutes, totally discombobulated as to what was going on. I looked at my ticket, and then I looked back at her, and I looked back at my ticket, and I looked back at her. And then it dawned on me that, of course, my dad, because he's 90, like I told you, 94 in fact, he has a over 65 ticket. But he'd taken my adult ticket and I had his over 65 ticket. So when it's scanned in, she thinks I've tried to get in for paying £5 less or whatever it was.
You would do that.
So I had to call him over because he'd already gone through. I had to call him over and come back. It was very difficult though because his hearing's going. He's getting old, bless him. So it took about 10 minutes. It was like a scene out of Anna Partridge. It's like, Dad,
help!
No, he's not heard me. Yeah. Come back, and he sorted me out, and then we just got swept. Once I was over the other side of the turnstile, you were swept up in a wave of Wolves fans, and the lone Fulham voices in the away end, which was fun. And then, of course, there were no trains to Putney Bridge that day, so that was a nice couple of buses as well. So top off a fascinating story. If you've stayed awake and listened to the entirety of that story, congratulations, you big weirdos.
Fulham are doing well. I've got a couple of Fulham fans at work, and I think they've won a lot. I think they're unbeaten on 14, and I think they're going to probably gate crash I can see them gate crashing the automatic places the way they go.
The way they're going, they're on a fine run of form. And saying that, Stu, coming up to the end of our broadcast here, our recording, and we could probably finish up and actually listen to their show, the Fulham Fans show, on Love Sport, because I think they're on Thursday nights, aren't they? No, they're not Wednesday nights, because we're recording on Wednesday, sorry, ignore me. I'm totally confused now, and this is going to make no sense to anyone listening, and everyone's sitting here listening going, you two are going to be live radio? Really?
Yeah, what could happen, eh? What's the worst that could happen?
All I do know is that studio, the very small studio that we shall be sat in, there are rumours that Milton Keynes might use that as a new home ground. Ho, 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 ho. And I think that's it. I think that's it, isn't it, really? Nothing else to say. Yeah,
and join us. Please join us on Sunday. It'd be really nice to see us get some listening figures, because everyone loves Wimbledon, and I'm sure we'll get loads of neutral fans listening to us as well, hopefully.
We did meet one of the presenters, didn't we? We met Rosie the other day, which was
Rosie,
hilarious.
Rosie, yes, you liked Rosie, didn't you?
Yes, to put it bluntly. And I liked it because her exact words to the director, one of the directors, commercial director at the station, because she's going to start. I think she starts on Saturday on the weekend. One of her words were, it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. Like,
yeah, wow. She looked surprised at how professional it was, and then she saw us.
And then she sort of kept looking at us going, who the hell are you?
Well, I want to say, though, talk about people they got presenting. Of course, their Saturday show, they have the, the world famous now, Wayne Shaw, don't they?
I think world famous might be pushing it.
Well, maybe not. Berger or, Sutton United. Yeah, Sutton United, Wayne Shaw. I think it'll be quite interesting to see how they get on. We're quite excited about it, and I'm sure they'll do very well. They've definitely got some definite ambition there to compete against TalkSport, and by some of the names they've got already, yes, it should be good. Looking forward to it. What's the worst going to happen? We've done podcasts, we've done Facebook Live, and now we're entering the world of live radio. Wow.
Scary thought. Right, well, thank you very much for listening to the podcast this week. We shall be back, as we say, next podcast, as it will, Monday or Tuesday evening. We shall update you, so just keep an eye out for that. Otherwise, updates from the Oxford game on the weekend at 9 Wireless Podcast as usual. And all that's left to say is, Stu, I shall see you on Sunday at Love Sport Radio, where our guest for the first show will be Theresa May to talk about changes in the voting laws, only if she remembers to bring her ID, however. Alexa Bliss, bag first, milk last, and we shall speak to you on Sunday.